dusty, fast, but there is definitely a good side to it. KZN. I love the more technical and tighter events. I prefer that over the faster stuff, but to be the best, you have to be the best at everything.
It's quite scary because you're catching people in the dust and you don't really know the track as well as other disciplines.
To describe racing, I'd probably say the best word is exciting, because you always have something new. Ever since I was a child, I've been very competitive. Played a lot of sports in school, and on the track especially, I've always tried to be the best, and if I wasn't, I'd train harder. I love competing against others, and if there's someone better than me, it makes me want to push myself even more to try and get better than them.
I think I just fell in love with riding bike, and the next step from there is to see if you can be the best.
Look, to be a successful motocross racer or an off-road racer, an enduro racer, you have to be the whole package. You can't just train hard. You can't just have a good team behind you. You can't just have a good bike. You can't just have a dad with lots of money. You know, there's a lot that needs to come together in order to make you a good and successful athlete. You have to be willing to be open to criticism, to learn from your mistakes, and yeah, you have to be able to, you know, turn your mind off and put the work in needed in order to take the next step in your career. Lots of riders kind of have blinkers on, especially when they start doing well. They think they figured out the formula. But unfortunately, that's not the case. You need to adapt and evolve constantly with the sport and with your body as an athlete. You know, what works today won't necessarily work tomorrow. So you have to always be willing to evolve and willing to improve yourself and improve your skill set, improve your motorcycle, just improve in general. I think that's the most important thing.
In 2018 and 2019, when I moved towards the off-road side of racing, I found myself lucky with a lot of help through Husqvarna at the time, and in 2020 Husqvarna approached me and offered me a little bit of help and support throughout the rest of the season, and then in 2021 I officially signed with Husqvarna South Africa, where I've been with them ever since. Since then, 2022 came around, and unfortunately it's where I had a big injury with my knee. Had to have a ACL repair and meniscus repair, which put me out for most of the season. But at the end of last year, I ended up winning the last race, and I'm looking forward to this year and see what it brings in store for us. I try and not put the pressure on myself, but there is pressure from other aspects in that, and to do well and make the brand look good. But I just know if I've put in the effort, then 100% is what I can do, and if that's not good enough, then I need to push harder and train more for the next one.
I think the feeling that you get when you're racing, you can't compare it to anything. It's not like anything you could experience anywhere else. It's purely yourself in your own head.
So round one, we headed off to Legends in Gauteng. We've raced there the last few years, so very familiar terrain for all the riders. There's not really much space there to create virgin routes, so it's not the same track. It can obviously be linked together very differently, but lots of familiar sections for the riders. It creates for some really good racing because some of the guys know the land a little bit better than others. Very dry and dusty out there. And yeah, being round one, you kind of have to come out swinging and show that you've put in the work in the off season and stamp your authority on your class. And I think with Davin definitely winning the overall there, he showed he was the guy to beat. So going into round two, it was, yeah, everyone had saw the target on his back and was gunning for him.
Beginning of the third lap, I realized that Brad and Kieran were pretty close still, and that's when I kind of put the hammer down through the rock sections because I realized I was a lot quicker than them in there. And when I came in for the end of that lap, I realized I had pulled quite a big gap, and I just kept it safe for the rest of the race.
Having my first overall victory was very exciting, knowing that I do have the potential to beat everyone and the speed. So I was very happy with myself, and I'm sure the team was happy as well. It was funny because last year the first race was also at Legends MX, and I was leading overall on the 250 where unfortunately I got stuck in mud and then had a little crash. But this year there was no mud, so I was happy to get that overall.
Ryan Pelser, being new to the Husqvarna squad, saw himself out for a really positive, consistent race, giving him a decent result and a good year to look forward to.
I was still getting into the thing with the team and all of that. It was all very new to me. It's very good experience. So I was used to the older shape KTM, and these new bikes it took me a while to get used to it, and unfortunately I wasn't very comfortable before that race. I feel like that affected my championship quite a lot.
How long does it take you to get used to a new bike and a new setup?
I think it depends on the bike and how quickly you can adapt to it, and I think that's very important for off-road rider because you have to adapt to the terrain. But if you are not comfortable on your bike and you can't trust what your bike can do, trying to race through the sugarcane and forests are definitely challenging.
Confidence is a big thing in racing, because if you lose your confidence, you lose your mindset and then you're off for the whole race. So you always have to go into the race with a very confident mindset and be ready for everything, because you never know what comes out.
In round two, we moved to Jolly Vet. Always call it a controversial round. We get lots of the enduro riders that come out and just wild card that race. It's quite a technical race, goes through the trees. There's some slippery sections, snotty sections, so the enduro riders really do pretty well there, being familiar with that terrain. And yeah, then the cross-country riders kind of have to, fight amongst each other with all these wild cards in amongst them. So it is difficult. Sometimes you get caught in an enduro rider's dust, and maybe you feel like that guy shouldn't be there. But at the end of the day, as a cross-country rider doing a cross-country race, you should be in front of him.
Second off-road was held in Jollyvet at the Coles Farm. Nice venue, not too much of my riding style, but it's always good. I managed to get second place in the time trial, where I started behind Brad Cox. First lap I was right behind Brad, but unfortunately there was a fire that broke out on the farm, causing us to stop the race for a little bit. When that got sorted out, we carried on, and on that second lap, I broke my gear lever on a stump, so I was stuck in third gear for the rest of that lap, and I was in the beginning of the lap. I dropped down to 7th, where I came into the pits after the second lap and we changed it, and I managed to get back up to 5th. So I was a bit disappointed, but still happy with the first in my class and 5th overall, still in the championship points.
Round 2, 6th in class, definitely was not chuffed with that result. We had all the enduro guys there with us in KZN, so it was a good race, but I was everywhere on the bike that day. I wasn't very comfortable, and I know I can ride a lot better in KZN. I love that place. So normally I do very well there, but this year it wasn't a good race for me. Didn't plan to ride like this today. Not sure I have to work on myself, work on the bike, and try to sort things out. But I'm happy I'm safe at the finish and try to prepare for the next round.
The race was stopped due to a fire. Did a few changes on the bike, and then from there I could push as hard as I could go. I was 7th position overall and managed to push back to 4th. So yeah, all in all, gave my all and got to the finish.
I knew that people were going to be fast today, so I was just trying my best and trying to limit the mistakes. So happy with the results though. So.
It is absolutely intense. They go at really high speeds. They are racing each other at the same time. So compared to rally, they ride with each other a lot of the time at high speeds. But in the off-road racing, they are competing hard against each other. One of my personal things is just the dust in off-road racing is super nerve-wracking. So yeah, in the race scenario, you are catching people, you're overtaking people, you're fighting for a win. So racers get close to each other, they get obviously very competitive out there. Terrain varies from a basic dirt road, along the side of a farm fence, for instance, to a right or left-hander down the next straightaway, to then having some nice switchbacks left to right. You have occasionally some wooded areas where generally your speeds are high, so they are averaging 150 kilometers an hour. They are always at a high speed. So your terrain is always flowing.
Going racing is a monumental task. We don't just decide on the Friday we're going to load up and go racing. We're not a privateer effort. There's a lot of planning that goes into it. We've got accommodation planned for weeks before the events. We make sure all our flights are booked. We make sure that juniors race van is sorted, and then we make sure, most important thing, that the race bikes are perfect. We don't go racing with anything that's too old or that we're second guessing. Should we have changed it? Should we have not changed it? It's we make sure that we're ready to go when it comes down to racing. So it's a lot of behind the scenes sort of efforts that take place. And yeah, we're a small team, so all of us get stuck in, and we make sure that we do the best we can when it comes to racing, and we give the guys the best opportunity to go out and win. We arrive at race day in the dark. You know, we're there early before the sun rises. The pits are already set up from the previous day. There's obviously small things to still do. We make sure the bikes are unloaded and ready. You know, Junior he really handles that aspect of it. We make sure the bikes are good to go the morning of race day. We obviously cannot afford to have any mechanical issues on the weekend, so we spend the majority of the week making sure everything is perfect. We then load up the race van and he'll travel down to the race the day before, set up pits, and then the big thing happens on the weekend. Round 3 and 4 was a double header in Freiburg. Not the first time we've been to Freiburg. We knew it was going to be demanding there. Soft sand terrain, it gets really rough.
I loved it there last year. It was a bit low me because we had some rain, but this year it was dusty as hell and completely different days. So first day it was rough, hard pack some sections and then sand.
Lots of the guys run a scoop tyre there. We opted against it this year because the scoop tyre can really fall off and go away very quickly if we do run over some hard pack sections. We were prepared for both, but we opted against the scoop tyre and we ran the Enduro medium like we always do from Michelin.
I hadn't raced there before. We did have the nationals there last year, but that's when I was out due to my injury. And I did go watch, and it looked really interesting. Unfortunately, this year there wasn't any rain, so there was a lot of dust. It was all right for me. I managed to get a good time trial on both days, and the fight was really, really tough though. The track was rough as anything. And Michael Pentecost kept me honest throughout the day, and Bradley Cox as well. I was happy with myself and I couldn't ask for anything better than the first on both days and the first overall.
Dev had a really phenomenal weekend, dream weekend. Fought through the sunrise. You know, they had time trial really early in the morning. The sun was really bad. He was able to keep a cool head and get a good time trial, and just assert his dominance on proceedings there. Really showed that he's the guy to beat once again.
I wasn't very happy finishing 7th on the first day, but you can't sit there and cry. You have to get ready for the next day. So I knew what I had to do. I definitely felt better finishing 5th on the next day too, and I know what I can do, and it shows I had the pace. I needed a bit more time.
Going into that round, we fielded 2 wildcard riders in the OR1 class. Looking at the manufacturer's points, it's really important for us to try score points in every class. And for the first 2 rounds, we had scored 0 points in the OR1 class. So we had 2 riders out there, Michael Doherty and Sharon Moore, trying to ensure we score good points in that class. Being a double header, it wasn't always going to be a guarantee, but yeah, we did our best to try get some valuable manufacturers' points there to put us in the running for the overall towards the end of the year. So yeah, Dav on board the FX350 this year in the cross country, what a machine that bike is. We knew that bike is good for overall results, and he started out round one proving that. A really good year for him. He proved that he's the guy to beat time and time again. And you know, yeah, double header. He won time trial. He won both days in Freiburg. That was a really good weekend for him. He really proved himself as a cross country rider and the man to beat on that FX350. What a year for him so far. So cross country is a really fast facet of racing. You know, the guys are constantly running through the gearbox. They're getting up to top speed. They're racing through deserts, over rollers. Not really any slow speed sections apart from where they're coming into a turn and then they climb through the gears again. It's really fast for someone that maybe doesn't really know the difference between enduro and cross country. You know, it's enduro is a lot more technical, a lot more slow speed.
You have to kind of pace yourself. It's not just flag to flag, running it flat out, trying to exhaust yourself. You must try to save some energy for the end of the race, because you're not necessarily racing for an hour or two, you're racing for 5 or 6 hours, sometimes 10 hours. Enduro racing for me is my favorite because you really have to push yourself to the limit. You're pushing your bike to the limit as well. You need to make sure your bike stays in one piece, your body stays in one piece, and rehydration is very important as well on enduro, and there's lots of key factors that you need to remember on enduro, and I think that's what makes the sport enjoyable for me.